to 50%. The plan to prevent billions of dollars of foreign steel from entering the U.S. More from Fox's Madeline Rivera.
The president is doubling down on these tariffs, even as many of them face legal challenges. He says these steel and aluminum tariffs will better protect these industries. Here's what he said to steel workers in Pennsylvania last night.
I believe that this group of people that just made these investments right now are very happy because that means that nobody's going to be able to steal your industry. It's at 25%. They can sort of get over that fence.
That new rate is set to take effect on Wednesday. This comes as the administration challenges a decision from a trade court earlier this week that found the president overstepped his authority by relying on a 1970s emergency powers law to impose many of his tariffs.
The court ruling does not apply to steel and aluminum tariffs, which fall under a different authority. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth warned our allies in Asia that the threat of Chinese aggression is real and could be imminent.
We are preparing for war in order to deter war, to achieve peace through strength.
Hegseth spoke at an Asian Defense Summit in Singapore. He insists Beijing wants to control and dominate the Indo-Pacific region. He's also calling on allies and partners in the region to do their part by increasing defense spending. U.S. Envoy Steve Witkoff says the response by Hamas to a U.S. peace proposal for Gaza is totally unacceptable. A senior official with Hamas told the Associated Press the group wants to change the proposal over the timing of hostage releases, the delivery of aid, and the withdrawal of Israel from Gaza. America is listening to Fox News.
From around the world,
Trey Yingst, joining us from Tel Aviv, Israel.
to Washington,
I'm Mike Emanuel.
to your own backyard. If a story impacts you or your wallet, we're on it. It's the Fox News Rundown. We give every story the deeper look it deserves with must-listen interviews and smart analysis from the voices you can trust. Start your day with the Fox News Rundown. Listen and follow now at foxnewsrundown.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. From the Fox News Podcasts Network.
Hey, this is Trey Gowdy, host of the Trey Gowdy Podcast. Every Tuesday, you'll hear what's on my mind. Plus, every Thursday, there's a special bonus episode where we answer the questions that are on your mind. Make sure to spend your Tuesdays and Thursdays with Trey. Subscribe now at foxnewspodcast.com or wherever you download podcasts. Hope to see you.
America's listening to Fox News.
PBS is suing
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
Searching for peace. I'm Jarrett Lewis. Here's what's trending this hour. The family of Mason Alexander is asking for prayers as they remember a bright young man who was taken too soon.
Please keep Kelly, the mother of Mason, and his sisters and brothers and his extended family in their prayers. You know, it's been very difficult for her.
Mason's uncle, Ravi Murray, spoke to Wish TV as a Hamilton County judge ruled that the teen driving the BMW that Alexander was in that crashed into a tree and caught fire on March 1st will be tried as an adult. 18-year-old Trey Williams was 17 at the time of the crash. A man from Muncie is arrested and charged with voyeurism for placing a hidden camera in the apartment he shared with a woman. The roommate and her mother ended up finding the camera. According to the arrest report, 23-year-old Anthony Castro admitted to police that he was the one who placed the camera in the apartment. Purdue University is announcing they are cutting back on DEI initiatives effective immediately. The school said Friday they are closing the Office of Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging and are eliminating any related activities in their colleges and departments. And Olympic swim trials are returning to the Circle City. Indianapolis and Lucas Oil Stadium will again hold Olympic swim trials in 2028 ahead of the Summer Olympics that year in Los Angeles. Lucas Oil hosted swim trials in 2024 and broke attendance records with over 285,000 people watching the trials over 9 days. An official announcement from USA Swimming and Indiana Sports Corp is expected next week. I'm Jarrett Lewis on the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com.
Tonight, mostly clear or low temperatures in the mid-40s. There will still be some haze around from the wildfire smoke. High temperatures in the mid to upper 70s. Multiple days next week in the 80s. On Wish TV, Storm Track 8 meteorologist Ryan Morse for 93 WIBC.
Let's talk education. Is your child's school providing them with the knowledge and values they'll need in life? Do you worry about what they may be taught in the hallways and even in the classroom? Do you feel like they're safe when they go to school? What about things other than just academics? Is your child's school supportive of your family's beliefs? Your child is not stuck where they are. You and your child have options. You could get a tuition voucher worth approximately $6,000 to attend a private school. Over 75,000 Indiana kids already have. Many kids excel with the high standards, small class sizes, and more individual attention provided by private schools. Don't settle for something that doesn't feel right. You don't have to choose between your values and their education. Make a choice. Make a change. Visit myschooloptions.org. That's myschooloptions.org.
Paid for by the Institute for Quality Education. Your Indiana Farm Bureau insurance agent is here to help guide you through the process, so you don't have to go it alone. Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance. Let's insurance together.
When you're high, you feel different. But if you feel different, you drive different. So don't drive high. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is the Second Amendment, and this is the Gun Guy.
Boom, 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 boom. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. Bang, bang, bang.
With Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. It's great to be back after a week off. We had the race here on WIBC. I'll tell you what, just nothing better than listening to the Indy 500 with the crew that we have broadcasting the race here at WIBC. They just do such an amazing job. And even though it was sold out this year, so it was broadcast on TV, I'm sure a lot of folks did what I did, which is to have the TV on with the sound turned off and WIBC playing on the radio. That's exactly what I did. Grilled some barbecue and hung out at home, and I did miss doing the show, but I still enjoyed the heck out of the race. And again, my congratulations always goes out to that amazing broadcast team from WIBC that puts the race on. It is exciting and fun to listen to it on the radio. So hope you enjoyed that as well, even though hopefully you missed the Gun Guy Show just a little bit as well. A lot to talk about. What I'm getting a ton of calls and emails on, and I'm actually kind of in the middle of looking at this issue myself, and already was when I started getting inquiries, but the ATF just recently published on its website a chart that it identified as the states where if you have a license to carry a firearm or a concealed carry license, like they call it in some states, that license can actually substitute for, under some circumstances, can substitute for the NICS background check. When I say NICS, that's National Instant Criminal Background Check System, run by the FBI out of West Virginia, that you can go in, show your license to carry handgun, and while the federal firearms licensee, the gun shop, still has to figure out, or still has to fill out, I should say, the 4473 form. That's that application. That is, you fill out with that information. The gun shop still has to keep that and record that, but that information on that 4473 form doesn't have to go into the FBI, and you don't have to do a NICS check, and you just walk out with your gun without waiting to be approved by NICS, which is the FBI. And I got this chart, and needless to say, that was news to me. I had someone forwarded it to me, I think the same day it came out, which was about a week ago. And I looked at this and I said, oh, hell no. I mean, this can't be right, because there would have been some announcement. ATF would have come out and publicly announced this, because the way this works is the ATF has certain requirements to substitute someone having a license to carry within their state and having that substitute for a NICS check as part of a firearm purchase. And for years, ATF has called this having a state POC, which is point of contact. That is the state license or the state issuing its own license to that individual is the point of contact, quote unquote, to make sure that person can legally purchase and possess a firearm. And there was always some amount of, I don't want to say hubbub, but at least some attention given when the ATF would announce that some new state had been approved. And there hadn't been any new state approved for, oh gosh, I want to say 10 or 15 years. And so again, it was certainly a surprise to me when I saw this chart came out, this chart came out, and Indiana's listed. And what's interesting, because they list the name of the license, and they just list Indiana concealed carry handgun permit. So, of course, immediately the hair on the back of my neck went up and said, well, we don't even call it a concealed carry handgun permit. So ATF's got that wrong. We'll call it a license to carry handgun. And it makes a difference, as I've often said here on the show, because you don't have to conceal your firearm when you have a license, just like you don't have to conceal your handgun if you're lawfully carrying under constitutional carry. So we don't call it a concealed carry handgun permit. And I always try to sort of gently correct people when they call it a CCW or a CCL or all these other acronyms or terms that people use from other states accurately, because that's what they call them in those states. We don't have a CCL. We don't have a concealed carry license or a CCP concealed carry permit or CCW concealed carry weapon permit. No, we have a handgun license. But anyway, the ATF lists it as Indiana's concealed carry handgun permit. And next to that, it just says yes, meaning it is acceptable by an FFL in lieu of a NICS check. And I'm reading this going, this can't be right. And so what I did this previous week, I sent some inquiries out with other people that I thought would be in the know, including my friends at the Indiana State Rifle and Pistol Association. And I think I was kind of breaking the news to them because this is brand new to all of us. And so I then fired off an email to the ATF and said, listen, I'm a Second Amendment attorney. I have a radio show. I'm going to have a lot of clients and listeners and people on social media who are going to be asking me about this. Please tell me what the scoop is. So I hope to give you more definitive information here absolutely as soon as possible. And I will absolutely put that out on my social media. So give me a follow on Twitter or X, just at Guy Relford, and I will get you the latest information. But here are some nuances of this, even if this is accurate. And I can't believe that ATF just made this change without making any kind of an announcement, at least not any kind of an effective announcement that would have come to us, in the industry, or those of us who are interested in these issues. And I've got buddies of mine who are FFLs, federal firearms licensees, who own gun shops, who were contacting me going, have you heard anything about this? And why wouldn't the gun shops, the FFLs, be the first to know? And they should have gotten a notice from the ATF because it's changing the process by which they can sell guns. So ATF has screwed this up from top to bottom as far as I'm concerned, even assuming the information is accurate. But listen, here's why I still want to talk about this, even though we don't have necessarily the definitive answer of what's going on with this. I still want to talk about it because you know what I was doing right as we went on air today, just now? What I was doing, I was filling out my application for a 5-year license to carry. And that may make you scratch your head and say, well, hold on, why? What? You don't have a lifetime license already? Well, yes, I do have a lifetime license. But to be acceptable as a point of contact or to be acceptable as a substitute for a NICS check, the Indiana license, or whatever license we're talking about, as far as ATF is concerned, they have some requirements. And the first is that license or permit must allow the person who holds it to possess or acquire a firearm. Well, yes, this allows me to possess a handgun specifically. And then it says the permit must have been issued not more than 5 years earlier by the state in which the transfer is to take place. So this would only do me good for Indiana FFLs, but the 5-year tail on this is very important Because did I get my lifetime license many, many, many more years than 5 years ago? Yes, I got it. I don't even remember. It was right after Indiana allowed lifetime licenses, which has been a damn long time. So my license, as a lifetime license I acquired more than 5 years ago, doesn't qualify. And it says right on this, in the same chart, that for an FFL to accept this in lieu of a NICS check, the license must not have been issued more than 5 years ago. And then it says that state law must require that in order to obtain this license, that some qualified law enforcement personnel or qualified government official checks to make sure that the person who's receiving that license or permit can lawfully possess a firearm under both state and federal law. Well, that's exactly the process that the state police go through in issuing an Indiana license to carry. But this 5-year hook is an important point. And that's actually why, if you remember the chronology of this, before we got constitutional carry, we made some changes in the licensing statute. And I was right in the middle of all this. One was we took our 4-year license and we made it a 5-year license. Why did we make it a 5-year license? It was actually catered to, now the 4-year license would have been fine for this too, but it was catered to that 5-year requirement for a state point of contact to use the license in lieu of a NICS check. So we said, well, let's max that out. So if somebody has a 5-year license, they can avail themselves. But that was contingent upon ATF accepting our license, which, again, to my knowledge, other than this sort of vague reference on their website and this chart that lists Indiana among those states where you can do all of that, I've seen any kind of an announcement on ATF having done that. But that's exactly why the licensing statute, why we took the 4-year license to a 5-year license, and what we also put in the licensing statute at the same time was that a person can hold both a lifetime license and a 5-year license simultaneously. And why do we do that? Because they knew that if Indiana was ever accepted as a POC for firearm purchases with an Indiana license, a whole bunch of people were going to want to have both. And so what I did right here in the studio before we went on the air, in fact, it's asking for my credit card information for my fingerprints right now. It's kind of funny, after having had a lifetime license for this long, I didn't think I would ever be filling out another application. But that's exactly what I'm doing. Why? Because if this is accurate, or if it's in the process of becoming accurate, then I want to be able to use my license to carry as a means for purchasing a gun, if for no other reason than the convenience of not having to stand around for those minutes, however many it is, because we call it the National Instant Criminal Background Check System. Sometimes the system bogs down. Sometimes the system's not even available. Sometimes there's a backlog and it can take several minutes. Hey, I'd love to be able to flash my license. And those of you who are old like me will remember that prior to 1994, when the Brady Bill was passed, that's exactly how it worked then. Remember those days? You could, I want that gun right there. Okay, this is how much it's going to cost you. I'll take it. Do you have a license to carry? Yes, I do. And you flash your license, and they made a copy, and they took down the information, and boom, you walked out with your gun. That was before the NICS requirement that came in as part of the Brady Bill in 1994. And so this takes us back to that, to the extent that your license meets these requirements, including this 5-year business. And actually, also just before we went on the air, and I know it's Saturday and these folks deserve their weekend off as well, but I also sent an email to the Indiana State Police asking them what they'd heard about this, and just asked them if in fact they could confirm that the Indiana license works for a gun purchase now in lieu of a NICS check, and whether they are expecting a run on the 5-year license. Well, they're guarantee they're going to get a run of one, because I'm filling out my application as we speak. So anyway, interesting stuff. I will have much more definitive information, hopefully. Now, when I sent the email to the ATF, it said something like, we have a high volume of emails and yada, yada, and expect, I think it said 7 to 10 days for a response, something along those lines. But hopefully I get something more definitive from them, or we see an actual official announcement, or somehow we're able to resolve any ambiguity or any question marks around this, because this is potentially a big deal. This could literally change the way that you buy guns in Indiana. So more news on that, and if you have any questions or anything, give us a call here at the studio. As always, 317-239-9393, 317-239-9393. Join the discussion with your questions or calls. Join the YouTube chat. I haven't looked over there yet, but folks are on YouTube chatting away, and you can see a video broadcast of the show as well. Or give us a call, again, 317-239-9393. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Tony Katz.
When I first started in radio, crews were doing striping. I always said stripping because I didn't read very well.
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, sir.
Governor Braun, can we just get him a Sagamore of the Wabash? Can we just make that happen?
I've got two. I don't need another.
Highest honors, Matt Baer. Get this completed.
I got one from Governor Holcomb, got another from Governor Daniels.
And that's no part of that is true.
Tony Katz, mornings 6 to 9 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. Our Essentials of Indiana Gun Law class is our most popular class, and the next one is coming up on Saturday, July 12th. We've got quite a few people signed up for this, but there are still seats available. It always sells out, so you don't want to wait too long. It's just 4.5 to 5 hours of the most important legal information you need as an Indiana gun owner. We'd love to have you there. It's Saturday, July 12th from 9 a.m. to 1:30 to 2 p.m., and it costs just $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. And by the way, when we say couples, if you want to bring a buddy, you want to bring one of your children, whatever it may be, that's up to you. So let's call it $50 for an individual, $95 for two, whoever else you want to bring with you. You can register right online. That's tactical-firearms.com. Just click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
You know exactly why you need to remodel that kitchen of yours. The space, it's outdated. You can't move around like you used to. It doesn't work like it needs to. You want to entertain and you want to improve your quality of life. This can happen, just not with the kitchen you have. You need to call Booher Remodeling, B-O-O-H-E-R, BooherRemodeling.com. They can take that old kitchen that's deteriorating and broken down and turn it into something that works for you and your family. Their 5-step design process from start to finish, the consultation, the preliminary design, the design development, getting all the documents together, and then getting it done. The best materials, the most skilled craftsmen in Central Indiana. Booher Remodeling will guide you through the entire process, starting with the free initial consultation, and they stand behind their work with a 2-year workmanship guarantee. Create that new kitchen. Design experts can use an existing layout or begin completely from scratch. Talk to Booher Remodeling today. B-O-O-H-E-R. BooherRemodeling.com. That's BooherRemodeling.com.
Turning 65, new to Medicare, or just moved? If you qualify for Medicare and Medicaid, a Humana Dual Eligible Special Needs Plan, a DSNP, may give you the extra benefits you're looking for. A DSNP helps cover things like prescriptions and checkups, but it also helps pay for essentials too. With a Humana DSNP, you get $225 a month for eligible groceries, rent, utilities, and more. Plus, whatever you don't spend carries over to the next month. You may even get benefits like $0 copays on routine prescriptions, plus routine dental, vision, or hearing coverage. All of this could make a difference for your health and wallet. Learn more at GetHumana.com. Humana, a more human way to healthcare. Humana is a coordinated care HMO SNP plan with a Medicare contract and a contract with the Indiana Medicaid program. Enrollment in any Humana plan depends on contract renewal. Allowance amounts cannot be combined with other benefit allowances. Limitations and restrictions may apply.
With everything going on, it may be hard to imagine one more thing to worry about. But clothes dryers cause thousands of house fires every year. And dirty ductwork in your home is filling the air you breathe with pollutants and allergens. Should you worry? Not if you contact Safe Dryer and Air Duct Solutions, a locally owned, veteran-operated business offering fast, reliable duct and dryer vent cleaning services, making your home safer and your air healthier. WIBC listeners save 10% off any service. One less thing to worry about. Go to safedads.net.
Denny Smith for Sundown Gardens and Miss M's Home and Garden. The Memorial Day sale is here. 20% off container trees and shrubs and 30% off pottery now through June 1st. Finish off your yard and garden for the summer with annuals, perennials, and hanging baskets still in stock, and save 20% off container trees and shrubs, 30% off pottery at the Memorial Day sale at Sundown Gardens, 186th Street and Spring Mill Road in Westfield, Miss M's Home and Garden on State Road 135 in Bargersville.
I was seriously injured. It was definitely somebody's fault, and I didn't actually know who, so I needed to call someone. I was really happy to have a law firm like Hensley that had ethics. I made the best call.
It happens. Hire Hensley.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
I'm Tyler at Price Point Comfort Heating and Cooling. We do maintenance on all makes and models. It's never too late to schedule your maintenance tune-up at PricePointComfort.com.
Price Point Comfort is your trusted local independent American Standard heating and air dealer.
The Indianapolis Public Library. More than just books. Visit your local branch today.
Second to none on the Second Amendment. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. More news that appears to be also very good, at least as far as we know right now, on suppressors. The reconciliation bill, what President Trump likes to call his one great big beautiful bill, has an important provision in it that I'm excited about. A lot of people are excited about. It's gone through some changes. It went through some changes in the House, but when it went over to the Senate, it did pass the House by the narrowest of margins, but it did pass, and is now in the Senate, and we'll see what happens over there. It's got some hurdles, but the way it reads right now, and this went back and forth, because and what this is it's part of the Hearing Protection Act, or provisions of what are also called the SHUSH Act, S-U-S-H, but it looks more like the Hearing Protection Act, and what that would do is that as to suppressors, what a lot of folks call silencers, and actually what federal law calls a silencer or a firearm muffler, using the terminology from Hiram Percy Maxim, the inventor of the suppressor, also a pioneer in the area of automobile mufflers as well. Really, it's the same technology, a series of expansion chambers and baffles that minimize pressure, lower ambient temperature, and to a large degree dissipate sound, at least to a significant degree, let's call it that. And he called his product a firearm muffler, just like he called his automobile product a automobile muffler, and he had a brand name for the firearm muffler that he called the silencer. So the federal government adopted that terminology when they passed the firearm or the National Firearms Act of 1934 that closely regulates suppressors, treats a suppressor like a machine gun, as ridiculous as that is, where you have to pay a $200 tax stamp, you have to go through a separate registration process. The SHUSH Act, which was pending in the House, which is, I think it was called Silencers Help Us Save Hearing, would have deregulated suppressors altogether. It wouldn't treat them either as NFA items, like a machine gun or a short-barreled rifle, etc. Wouldn't even treat them as firearms, because at the end of the day, they're clearly not. They don't meet the definition of a firearm, except that federal law says, well, a weapon designed to propel a projectile by means of an explosion and suppressors. So it doesn't meet the base definition, but they lumped in suppressors so that they could regulate them. But the SHUSH Act would have deregulated suppressors altogether, wouldn't even treat them as firearms, so you can go in and buy one just like you buy an optic or a bipod or any other accessory for your firearm. The Hearing Protection Act left them regulated by the Gun Control Act of 1968, that is, left them regulated as firearms, but removed them from the provisions of the NFA. And the changes this went through in the House, because at one point, and it was a lot of scuttlebutt about whether even some suppressor manufacturers or retailers were getting involved, not wanting this to pass. And some thought they just feared an open market. They feared the additional competition, that if suppressors are completely unregulated or even taken out of NFA, that a whole bunch more people are going to want them, so a bunch more people would start making them, and it would open up the market. and perhaps decrease market share of some of these people. And so there was a lot of rumor mongering going on. I don't know whether any of it was accurate or not, so I won't share any company names. I'm not going to smear anybody without specific information that information is accurate. But there was a lot of speculation that at least some of the manufacturers were trying to harpoon this in the house. And it actually went from taking suppressors out of the NFA completely to leaving them in the NFA, to where you still had to register for your suppressor, still had to get your approval from ATF under the NFA process. It just took the tax down to zero, where the current tax to obtain a suppressor, just like obtaining a machine gun or obtaining a short-barreled rifle or building a short-barreled rifle, which I've done a number of times, or a short-barreled shotgun, and some other NFA-regulated items, you pay a $200 transfer tax, or a $200 tax to build, in the case of a short-barreled rifle, for instance. Or you can build a suppressor. On a Form 1, we call it, you can send your plans in, your specifications, create a unique serial number, and you can build a suppressor. So $200. The version of the Hearing Protection Act was amended in the House as a component of the great big beautiful bill to leave suppressors regulated by the NFA, just take the tax to zero. And listen, would I have saved some money over the years? Yes. I mean, that'd be nice. I'd rather not spend that $200 per suppressor, but I wanted them deregulated. I want to be able to walk in my gun store and walk out with my suppressor and not go through the whole ATF transfer and registration process to begin with. Well, it ended up being amended back into what we wanted it to be. At least what I wanted to be is completely deregulated and unregulated, even as firearms. But the next best thing is to take them out of the NFA. That is the version that I saw that came out of the House and went over to the Senate. Now, in the Senate, it's got some hurdles. You've got some Republicans that maybe are not completely on board with taking suppressors out of the NFA. We may have more behind-the-scenes lobbying by suppressor manufacturers that are not necessarily acting in our best interest as consumers. We'll have to see. But there's also a regulatory hurdle. There's a legal hurdle that component has to get over. And that is something called the Byrd Act, or the Byrd Rule. And that is that the only way this gets through the Senate is as a reconciliation bill. That is essentially a budget-focused bill. It has to do with money, not other substantive legislative matters. And there's going to be an argument, I guarantee you, in the Senate. And the Rules Committee will have to determine thumbs up or thumbs down on this point in the Senate. But it's going to say, hey, hold on, you're deregulating a set of devices here that have been regulated not only as firearms, but as highly restricted firearms for a long time. Taking those out of the NFA is not purely budget related. It's not purely about money. It's more substantive legislation. It doesn't pass the requirement of the Byrd Act. And the counter to that is, hold on, the whole NFA, the NFA is not in the criminal code. If I get caught with an unregulated machine gun, I can go to prison for 10 years. Sounds like it ought to be in the criminal code, but it's not. It's not, because in 1934, when it was passed, Congress still feared the Second Amendment. They still feared that the idea that if they just outright banned things, that would violate the Second Amendment and be overturned by the Supreme Court. So what they decided to do on NFA-regulated items like machine guns, short-barreled rifles, short-barreled shotguns, and suppressors, and some other items as well, they decided to just tax the hell out of them. And that's what the National Firearms Act of 1934 is. It's not even in the criminal code. It's in the Internal Revenue Code. It's in the tax code. And I've mentioned this before here on the show, but I think it's always interesting, because I remember it was a fun fact when I found this out myself. You know where the $200 tax stamp comes from? You know where that amount comes from? It's been the same amount since 1934. How many other taxes have stayed flat since 1934? You know, we're getting pretty close to 100 years here, in less than a decade. The number comes from the retail price in 1934 of a Thompson submachine gun. So I said, okay, we can't ban these machine guns that are being used, by these bank robbers and gang members and, all the Hollywood influenced drama that Congress was focused on. You can't ban them because that would violate the Second Amendment, so let's just tax the hell out of them. So they intended it to be a 100% tax on the Thompson submachine gun because that's what those were selling for in 1934. And they lumped in suppressors and other NFA-regulated items other than a transfer tax on any other weapon. It's basically designed to regulate concealed weapons other than handguns. That's not exactly the definition, but that's the closest thing I can get through quickly. Those transfer tax on an AOW is only $5. Otherwise, $200. Original, or at least 1934, purchase price of a Thompson submachine gun. So if we're simply going to remove that tax requirement and take them out of the Internal Revenue Code section that is the National Firearms Act, that sounds like a budgetary matter to me. Now, it may be incidental given the amount of money compared to the other amounts of money they're spending as part of this reconciliation bill, and it is incidental. But to the extent that it is focused financially, as far as this component of the bill, that at least gives me some hope, as naive as it might be, that the Hearing Protection Act component of the great big beautiful bill will in fact get passed. We'll have to see. Will it pass this Byrd Act issue? Will the Republicans have the votes to pass it? Will they chicken out and decide they don't want to deregulate suppressors or at least take them out of the NFA? We'll see. But right now it's alive and well, and we'll see what comes out of the Senate. But that bears a lot of watching and something I'll be reporting on here soon as well, both here on the Gun Guy Show on Monday Gun Day on Hammer and Nigel, as well as on my social media. So right now we're a little past the bottom of the hour. We're taking a break. Give us a call. Join the discussion, 317-239-9393. This is Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Kendall and Casey.
You just heard him mention dignity.
Simple dignity. Everyone deserves to be treated with dignity.
Dignity.
He's turned into Randy Marsh from South Park. I'm America. I'm sorry. It's America.
It's about dignity.
Yes.
Arresting me for what? I'm not allowed to stand up for myself? I thought this was America.
Kendall and Casey. Weekdays 9 till noon on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Hello, my name is Nate Clancy. I'm with Labor's Local 120. I've been with Labor's Local 120 for over 40 years now.
For members of Labor's International Union of North America, giving back is part of their commitment to the Indy community, like helping the Soapbox Derby.
We painted the bridge. The Wilkershaw Bridge is an iconic bridge for the Soapbox Derby. It's been there forever. It was, needing work.
When Indy or surrounding communities need help, LIUNA steps up.
Members that went over there, we seen that it was needing work, power washed, done the painting, just anything that was needed, and it looks amazing now.
This is Chris Brickey, business manager of Labor's Local 120. While all our members are skilled, highly trained men and women, we are also your friends, neighbors, Little League coaches, and volunteers here in Indy.
Here at the local, I like volunteering in the community. Just every little bit helps. I really got a real joy in doing that.
We build Indy for good jobs and stronger communities. We are LIUNA Local 120.
Pat Sullivan here with exciting news from my friends at Hope Plumbing, now known as Hope Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Hope now offers plumbing, heating, and air conditioning services, bringing total comfort to your home. No more dealing with multiple home service memberships. For only $8 a month, Hope is now your one-stop for safety and maintenance inspections and so much more. Make sure you're prepared for those Indiana summer heat waves with an AC tune-up by calling Hope Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling today at 641-HOPE.
Hi, Jeff Roush for Tom Roush Lincoln. Right now, get Lincoln's employee pricing on most all new Lincolns at Tom Roush Lincoln in Fishers. Get up to $20,000 off select 2024 Navigators, up to $8,000 off select 2024 Nautilus, or up to $7,000 off select 2024 Corsair at Tom Roush Lincoln in Fishers.
Navigator MSRP 105,575, Nautilus MSRP 61,995, Corsair MSRP 47,820. Offers good through May 31st, 2025. Navigators excluded from employee pricing. Subject to credit approval. See dealer for complete offer details.
This hour on 93 WIBC is powered by Price Point Comfort Heating and Cooling, your independent American Standard air dealer.
News, I'm Daria Albinger. The U.S. is prioritizing peace through strength as the Indo-Pacific faces military and economic pressure from China.
He wants to be the president of peace, and we see this evidence on many different fronts as he is leading negotiations towards peace agreements, and that's no different here in the Indo-Pacific.
That's Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard on Fox and Friends Weekends. Defense Secretary Hegseth repeating the message at the Shangri-La Dialogue and Asian Summit now underway. President Trump gave Elon Musk a key to the White House as he stepped away from Doge.
I'm not troubled by anything with Elon. I think he's fantastic. Did a great job. And, you know, Doge continues, and by the time it's finished, we'll have numbers that'll knock your socks off.
Musk says he'll return from time to time to check on things. America's listening to Fox News.
Hammer and Nigel here for our guy, Mark Dietel. Mark Dietel is the only real estate expert that we trust on the Hammer and Nigel show. And it's because he's helping Hoosiers every day, like Kevin and Angela in Greenwood. The big home was too much, and it was time for Dad to move into a maintenance-free community. But they needed cash from the home to fund the change. They reached out to the Mark Dietel team, and they were helped immediately with the entire process from selling belongings to prepping the home for maximum value. The home went on the market and sold for $5,000 over the asking price in less than a week. That's what Mark Dietel does. He's the only real estate agent that can guarantee your home sold at a mutually agreed upon price or deadline, or he will buy it. No long-term contracts. You pick the move date. You can cancel at any time. Call Mark Dietel today, 317-755-4232, or go to markdietel.com.
Many nonprofits struggle with staffing issues, but through the Senior Community Service Employment Program, or CSEP, 501(c)(3)s with limited budgets can get cost-free supplemental employees while helping train people 55 and over for a new career. Trainees are motivated, reliable employees, and their wages are completely covered by the Indiana Department of Workforce Development. To learn more, go to backtowork.dwd.in.gov. That's backtowork.dwd.in.gov.
Are you prepared for an emergency or disaster? Because it's not a matter of if, but when. Don't find yourself saying,
when the storm rolls in, my time to find a pet-friendly evacuation center will have run out.
The scorching heat wave will leave me powerless to cool my insulin.
I'll face a hurricane without meds. Now that's a tough pill to swallow.
Let's prepare so we all have a better story to tell. Get started at ready.gov/older adults. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council. The show about gun rights, gun safety, and responsible gun ownership. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. A couple of questions came out of the YouTube chat that I just took a look at during the break. And one is a gentleman named Matt on there asked, if I apply for a new 5-year license so I can take advantage of this potential, I don't think it's written in stone yet, even though it's right there on the ATF website. I'm still a little cynical about it because I hadn't seen any other announcement. But the ATF saying that if you have a license issued by the state of Indiana to carry a handgun and it was issued within the last 5 years, that makes you eligible to go in and buy a gun without having to go through the NICS background check system. And Matt asked, does this mean if I apply for a 5-year that voids my current lifetime? And no, I remember specifically when we changed the 4-year license to a 5-year license, another change we made, because we were looking exactly at this issue. That is, Indiana being a point of contact where you can use your license to buy a firearm in lieu of a NICS check. And the legislators wanted our licensing statute to track those requirements perfectly. We knew that there would be people that would want to hold both. I mean, I'm not going to give up my lifetime license. At the same time, I want a 5-year license. In fact, just before the show started, as I mentioned, I filled out my application sitting right here in the studio. So the statute was revised to some degree to say specifically you can hold both. And by the way, little logistics. If you're looking at the website, the state police website, it says do you want to apply for a new license? And then it says, if you do not have a current license and want to apply for a license, check here. And I went, well, that didn't apply to me because I already have a lifetime. And then it said, do I want to renew my current license? Well, no, I want to renew my lifetime because it doesn't need to be renewed. So that didn't really apply. And then it said, do I want a duplicate license because I lost mine or because I want the new plastic one? Well, no, I don't want that either. So none of the boxes seemed to apply to me. So I just checked on apply for a new license. And lo and behold, as I went through it, it asked me, have you ever been issued a license? Yes. Do you have a current license? Yes. What kind of a license are you applying for? 5 year. And then I said, what kind of a license do you currently hold? I clicked lifetime. And so it let me go right on from there saying, yes, I have a current lifetime license, but I still want the 5 year. So want to clear that up. Someone else said, hey, I'd love to be able to use my license in lieu of filling out the 4473. Nah, that's not quite right either. You still fill out the 4473 form. And the FFL, the gun shop, still has to keep that form. But they don't have to send the information in terms of your identifying information off to the FBI for you to pass the next check. They just file away the 4473, but you still have to fill it out when you go in to buy a gun, assuming, and this is a big assumption before we get actual confirmation, and hopefully the ATF responds to my email on this quickly, but assuming this gets confirmed, which may be a leap of faith, but you still have to fill out the 4473. It just doesn't get used to generate the next check, which it currently does, or at least did until a week ago, and we'll see where it goes from there. I'll tell you what, a little bit of a short segment, but we're at the 3/4 hour mark. Let's take a break. This is Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Hammer and Nigel.
Trump 2028. Somebody's buddy's like, open up the rock, throw them all out there, middle of the ocean.
I'll even get Michael Bay. Let's get Michael Bay. Great director.
We're going to rename San Francisco Bay Michael Bay. We're going to open up Alcatraz. And we're going to make Canada pay for it. I'm here for it all, man. I am here for it all.
Hammer and Nigel, weekdays 3 till 7 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. Our next Essentials of Indiana Gun Law class is coming up on July 12th. So it'll get here sooner than you think. It's going to be Saturday, July 12th at Indy Arms here on the northeast side of Indy, 9 a.m. to 1:30 to 2 o'clock p.m., conveniently located at 2550 East 55th Street. Beautiful new range and a nice big comfortable classroom we teach our classes in. It's $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. This is 4.5 to 5 hours of the most important legal information you need as an Indiana gun owner. This includes a detailed discussion of the justified use of force, including deadly force, in self-defense under Indiana law, how to avoid commonly prosecuted crimes like intimidation with a deadly weapon, criminal recklessness with a deadly weapon, pointing a firearm, which is a crime in Indiana. We don't have brandishing as a crime in Indiana, but we have pointing a firearm and we have intimidation. What's the difference? How do you avoid those? We go into all of that and a whole heck of a lot more. 4.5 hours minimum, $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. You can register right online. It's tactical-firearms.com. Just click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
You let him try violin because you love him. And if you love him that much, love him enough to make sure he's buckled up and in the back seat. Find out more at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You may not have 1,000 horsepower, but you're always racing, whether it's to work, to pick something up, or drop someone off. So go the distance, knowing Hubler's got you covered for 100,000 miles. Shop any of Hubler's 13 locations or visit drivehubler.com and choose from over 2,000 vehicles. Chevys, Fords, Toyotas, GMCs, Buicks, Nissans, Acuras, Mazdas, Hondas, and many more. All makes, all models, certified vehicles, luxury vehicles, even the hard-to-find ones. Plus, every Hubler Q-certified vehicle is covered by a 128-point vehicle inspection and a free Carfax history report.
'Cause Hubler's got you covered.
No matter where you're racing to, go the distance, knowing Hubler's got you covered for 100,000 miles. Visit drivehubler.com or any of our 13 locations.
Cover me!
Warranty on select models less than 9 years old.
Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. Now, there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated the best hearing aids of 2025 by Forbes Health, Audion Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, starting at just $98 a pair.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aid.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 1 million happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
Career changers, including veterans and active duty service members. Your transition starts here. Go from GI to IT in a matter of months. Become a certified cyber warrior with training at My Computer Career. Cybersecurity specialists are in high demand, offering IT pros great opportunities and a rewarding lifestyle while protecting our people, liberty, and treasured institutions from cyber threats. Deploy your career in IT today. Learn more at mycomputercareer.edu/CWP. SkillBridge and other VA benefits are available to those who qualify.
Latrell spent more than 8 years in foster care. His world changed when he was adopted at 15 with help from the Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption.
I think about how much we love him, and I wish we could have had him for his entire childhood.
The foundation is changing the lives of thousands of teens waiting in foster care. You can help. Learn more at davethomasfoundation.org.
The WIBC mashup is everything you love, from fiery debates to laugh out loud takes, all in one podcast. No weak sauce, just the best of the day each weekday. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts. Your rights, your responsibilities, your guns. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. That's what Rick has called in, so let's go to the phone lines. Rick, welcome to the Gun Guy Show.
Thank you much. I a couple of years ago, left the country for a while, I retired and I did a little Southeast Asia tour.
Cool.
I come back. Before I left, I sold all my guns and ammo, and because I wasn't sure if I was coming back or not. Anyway, I come back. I wanted to buy a gun. My address on my license has been the same for during that 2 years, but I'm fixing to move, and I'm wondering, should I wait until after I change my driver's license address, or does that matter?
Well, the only thing you got to worry about, Rick, is that when you fill out the application, you have to put your current address. So if you haven't moved yet, you put your current address on there. Well, that's fine. And your ID that you give the gun store has to match your current address. So if you haven't moved yet and your ID is accurate as to your current address and it matches what you put on that 4473 form, you're fine. If you move after having bought the gun, having filled out the form with a previous address, that doesn't bother you a bit. That's not an issue. There's no requirement on that. We don't have registration in Indiana, so you don't have to go back and correct that. The only thing is, if you have a handgun license, once you move, you need to notify the state police of your new address. So does that answer that question for you?
Yeah, I guess that means if my address changed from when I applied to get my handgun license, that makes it null and void, I guess.
No, I don't know. There's a requirement in the statute. I was just looking at this yesterday. It says that if you have a change, including change of name, change of address, or an arrest or a conviction that may influence your status as a proper person to have a license, in the case of an arrest or a conviction, you have to send that in within 30 days. And if it's change of address or name, you have to change it. You have to send that in. I think I forget, 60 or 90. I've never heard of anybody getting their license voided, Rick, because they didn't meet that requirement. But it is a requirement of the statute, so I would send that on in. We've only got a couple of minutes here before the break at the top of the hour, but what I'm going to talk about a little more here this next segment is something that listen, I'm sure it doesn't affect or apply to that many people. And when I was talking to Rick just now about a potential arrest or conviction that may influence your status as a proper person, quote unquote, to get a license or to otherwise possess a firearm, this applies directly to that point. And what I want to go into is a real catch-22 and a real problem that I have people calling my office about, my law office. I have people calling my office about all the time. In fact, my son is an attorney. He's been an attorney 12 years or so now. He works with me, and he often hears my phone conversations, and it's got to the point where he'll just look at me behind my desk and start shaking his head because he's heard me have the same damn conversation over and over and over with people where I'm explaining to them, much to their surprise and much to their chagrin, that they are now prohibited from possessing a firearm. And that means anywhere, anytime, at home. And this has to do with what we call convictions for crimes of domestic violence. And I talk about this in my gun law class at length, but I want to go into it here on the show, and I want to get the word out. And I even want to get it out, not just to gun owners and people that value their Second Amendment rights. I really want to get this issue out to attorneys, especially those who handle criminal defense. And because this is a situation where I've seen prosecutors screw it up, I've seen defense attorneys screw it up, I've seen judges screw it up a lot, where there's a misunderstanding of the law in this area, and there's no question what the law says, there's no question how the law applies. And there are people regularly, right here in Indiana, that are losing their gun rights, and it's coming as a complete and utter shock to them, because they were told, either by their own attorney, by the prosecutor's office, maybe even part of a plea agreement, that they were not going to lose their rights. And in fact, they have. It's a big deal. Again, it has to do with crimes of domestic violence. I want to go into that. I want to get the word out. I'm actually teaching a CLE, a continuing legal education class, coming up in July, or coming up in June, rather. And I'm going to focus on this. But right now, we're at the top of the hour. We're taking a break. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
You know exactly why you need to remodel that kitchen of yours. The space, it's outdated. You can't move around like you used to. It doesn't work like it needs to. You want to entertain and you want to improve your quality of life. This can happen, just not with the kitchen you have. You need to call Booher Remodeling. B-O-O-H-E-R. BooherRemodeling.com. They can take that old kitchen that's deteriorating and broken down and turn it into something that works for you and your family. Their 5-step design process from start to finish, the consultation, the preliminary design, the design development, getting all the documents together, and then getting it done. The best materials, the most skilled craftsmen in Central Indiana. Booher Remodeling will guide you through the entire process, starting with the free initial consultation, and they stand behind their work with a 2-year workmanship guarantee. Create that new kitchen. Design experts can use an existing layout or begin completely from scratch. Talk to Booher Remodeling today. B-O-O-H-E-R. BooherRemodeling.com. That's BooherRemodeling.com.
It's the first day of the first grade, and she found a new best friend. It's a laid-back Sunday afternoon you wish would never end. The homemade taste of Bluebell and good friends gathered round. The good old days are being made right now.
Bluebell Groom's Cake Ice Cream is renewing its vows on the frozen aisle. Milk chocolate ice cream with chocolate cake pieces, chocolate-coated strawberry hearts, swirls of strawberry sauce, and chocolate icing. See you at the reception.
The good old days are being made right now. The good old days are being made right now.
Look for Bluebell Ice Cream at your favorite grocer. If you can't find it, please ask for it.
Road trip!
This summer at Tire Discounters, your tires are your passport to savings, because you're driving to Paris,
Texas,
then it's off to Rome,
Georgia,
and you'll be kissing the Blarney Stone in Dublin,
Ohio!
Right now, save up to $514 when you buy 4 tires, and that includes a free alignment and oil change. Stop at Tire Discounters before you see the world.
Hammer and Nigel here, inviting you to join us as we kick off the weekend every Friday around 5:45 with Beer Sample Friday, brought to you by our friends at Thompson Furniture and Mattress in Columbus.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone. Done. By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Indy Humane. Find your new best friend today. Visit indyhumane.org.
Broadcasting from the Technology Recycler Studios, this is Indy's Mobile News. 93 WIBC. WIBC HD1 Indianapolis. The news starts now.
Protections as strong as steel. I'm Daria Albinger, Fox News. President Trump says he'll do anything he can to protect American-made steel and America's steel workers. So he's doubling his tariff on imported steel from 25 to 50%.
The president is doubling down on these tariffs, even as many of them face legal challenges. He says these steel and aluminum tariffs will better protect these industries. Here's what he said to steel workers in Pennsylvania last night.
I believe that this group of people that just made these investments right now are very happy, because that means that nobody's going to be able to steal your industry. It's at 25%. They can sort of get over that fence.
That new rate is set to take effect on Wednesday. This comes as the administration challenges a decision from a trade court earlier this week that found the president overstepped his authority by relying on a 1970s emergency powers law to impose many of his tariffs.
That's Fox's Madeline Rivera. A promise from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to Indo-Pacific allies of the U.S. They won't have to deal with China on their own. Fox's Stephanie Bennett.
He underlined the region is a priority for the Trump administration, saying any attempt by China to conquer Taiwan would result in devastating consequences for the Indo-Pacific and the world.
China has demonstrated that it wants to fundamentally alter the region's status quo. We cannot look away, and we cannot ignore it.
Meanwhile, China's defense minister, he skipped today's meeting, and also fighting back, the Chinese embassy in Singapore said on its Facebook page that Hegseth's comments were steeped in provocations and instigation, saying he will repeatedly smeared and attacked China and relentlessly played up the so-called China threat, and that the U.S. itself is the biggest troublemaker for regional peace and stability.
Fox's Stephanie Bennett reporting. America's listening to Fox News.
From the Fox News Podcasts Network.
I'm Janice Dean, Fox News senior meteorologist and host of the Janice Dean podcast. Join me every Sunday as I focus on stories of hope and people who are truly rays of sunshine in their community and across the world. Be sure to subscribe to the Janice Dean podcast at foxnewspodcast.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And don't forget to spread the sunshine.
America's listening to Fox News. From the Fox News Podcasts Network.
This is Jason Chaffetz from the Jason in the House podcast. Join me every Monday to dive deeper into the latest political headlines and chat with remarkable guests to hear their take on American life, politics, and entertainment. And don't forget, there's always somebody doing something stupid somewhere.
Listen and follow now at foxnewspodcast.com
or wherever you download podcasts.
Must listen to podcasts from Fox News Audio.
Hey, think about
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
Sending a teen to adult court. I'm Jarrett Lewis. Here's what's trending this hour. A judge in Hamilton County says the teen who was driving the car that crashed in early March and resulted in the death of Mason Alexander will face charges in adult court. Trey Williams, who was 17 at the time of the crash, turned 18 in April and was arrested on May 1st.
This is not something that most families have to deal with. That's the reason why Hamilton County has really wonderful victim advocates that are guiding us through the process.
Mason's uncle, Ravi Murray, speaking there to Wish TV. Williams will have his first adult court hearing on Monday. A woman in Indianapolis is dead after being shot on the city's east side. The shooting happening Friday afternoon. Officers say the woman died at the scene and that they do have a person of interest detained. Authorities in Pike County in southern Indiana say a man tragically drowned in a boating incident. Another person in the boat was able to swim to safety after the boat capsized on a private body of water. Purdue is hammering out DEI initiatives on campus. The school announced Friday that any related activities within their colleges or departments are gone effective immediately. This includes the closure of the Office of Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging. School officials said the move is to comply with measures set by the state and at the federal level. And Ivy Tech is laying off more than 200 employees. This comes after Indiana's General Assembly voted to cut the college system's funding last month. Most of the layoffs began Friday. According to President Sue Ellspermann, the school could see around $54 million in losses over the next 2 years. I'm Jarrett Lewis, on the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com.
Tonight, mostly clear or low temperatures in the mid-40s. There will still be some haze around from the wildfire smoke. High temperatures in the mid to upper 70s. Multiple days next week in the 80s. On Wish TV, Storm Track 8 meteorologist Ryan Morse for 93 WIBC.
As a caregiver, managing your loved one's health can at times be overwhelming. This is Tina McIntosh, president of Joyce House and co-host of the Caregiver Crossing radio program. In a moment, I'll share 3 tips to help you manage your loved one's medical care effectively.
Cardon and Associates offers the finest senior living options tailored to your loved one's needs. Reservations are now being accepted for new apartments at Copper Trace in Westfield. Visit cardon.com.
Tip number 1, keep a list of all medications, dosages, and schedules to ensure your loved one is taking their medication correctly. Second, attend doctor's appointments with your loved one when you're able. And finally, stay organized by keeping forms, notes, and other important documents in one secure place. More tips like this are available anytime at caregivercrossingradio.org. With new weekly content created by Joyce House and distributed in partnership with Network Indiana, we're an on-air and online support group for Hoosier family caregivers. Hear conversations with experts, access the library of online education, and more at caregivercrossingradio.org.
If you can plan barbecues and weddings, you can plan to protect yourself from a natural disaster. Sign up for local alerts, prepare an emergency kit, and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is the Second Amendment. And this is the Gun Guy.
Boom, 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 boom. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. Bang, bang, bang.
With Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back to hour number 2 of the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. So I want to get into this discussion of crimes of domestic violence. And you may notice I'm not using the specific term domestic battery. And there's a very important reason for that. And that is that there are 2 different prohibitions that apply here in Indiana. And let's just back up. When we talk about domestic battery as a crime, what is that? That is a very specific crime in Indiana. It is sort of an offshoot of the crime of battery. And what I've been saying for a whole lot of years, decades and decades, is that of all the crimes that are the easiest for a prosecutor to prove, battery has got to be at the top of the list. You know what a battery is? A battery is touching someone in a rude, angry, or insolent manner. That's it. Touching. Now, it's only a B misdemeanor. It's a very low-level crime unless you cause an injury. But an injury can include just pain. Somebody says, ow. They have no mark on them. They're interviewed by police. Did it cause you pain? Yes. Now you got a Class A misdemeanor, which is battery with injury. You cause serious injury. Now you're getting up into the felonies. But you can get a battery by just touching in a rude, angry, or insolent manner. That is incredibly easy for prosecutors to prove. And a lot of times when police are called, and whether this is a pushing and shoving fight kind of a thing between strangers, whether it's something that's domestic, meaning it's happening as between family members, a lot of times the first thing out of the person's mouth is something like, oh, well, I pushed her, but I didn't hurt her, or I just moved her out of my way, or I just lightly slapped him, or whatever it might be. Well, you just confessed to a crime because you confessed that you touched the other person. And if that was in a rude, angry, or insolent manner, that's battery. Now, what's domestic battery? Domestic battery is touching someone in a rude, angry, or insolent manner where they are a family or household member. Now, family or household member is defined under Indiana law, and it is incredibly broad. And it was just even in the last few years amended to become more broad. So it includes someone you're married to, that makes sense, or have ever been married to, have ever lived with, have shared a child. Get this, if you are or were in a dating relationship with them, anyone to whom you're related by blood, so grandkids, great-grandkids, grandparents, siblings, related by blood or related by marriage. And someone you're in an official legal relationship with, say, as a guardian, and other similar legal relationships. So if you merely touch someone in a rude, angry, or insolent manner, and that person is a family or household member as incredibly broadly defined, that's the crime of domestic battery. Well, here's the problem, or at least here's the issue that results over and over and over again, and I know because people call my office and they're very upset about it. And they get more upset by the time the phone call's over. Why is that? Because there are two legal prohibitions that apply here. There's a statute specifically on point that says if you've been convicted of the crime of domestic battery, you may not possess a firearm. And it doesn't matter that it's only a misdemeanor. Separately, and it's even under a different statute, in a different chapter of the code. It's under the criminal code, but a different section of the code. It says separately, if you've been convicted of any crime, and it says crime of domestic violence. Crime of domestic violence. You cannot possess a firearm. Well, I just said if you're convicted of a specific crime of domestic battery, so isn't that redundant? Well, it's not, because it says any offense, and it doesn't matter what you call it. It can be just battery. It can be just criminal confinement. It could be intimidation. It could be any number of crimes that are not the specific crime of domestic battery, keeping in mind there's a statute that says if you've been convicted of the crime of domestic battery, you can't possess a firearm. Separately. And we'll look this up. It's Indiana Code 35-47-4-7. And Section A says if you've been convicted of any crime of domestic violence, you can't possess a firearm. And then there's a definition for crime of domestic violence. And it's any crime, doesn't matter what you call it, doesn't have to be domestic battery. This is what screws people up. It's what screws a lot of lawyers up. When I cover this point, when I'm teaching a CLE, a continuing legal education course, whenever I cover this point, I see several faces in the audience go a little pale because they realize they didn't understand this and may have even misguided some clients unintentionally, because if you don't practice in the same area where I do, a lot of lawyers simply aren't going to know. That's not a criticism so much as it's a reality, because I've seen it over and over again. So it says that the crime of domestic violence, a crime of domestic violence, is defined as, it's much broader than the specific crime of domestic battery. It says any crime involving either the use of physical force or the threatened use of a deadly weapon. So either or, use of physical force or the threatened use of a deadly weapon, and it's committed against a family or household member. So any crime could be just battery. And then again, family or household member being incredibly broadly defined. So here's what happens. Here's what happens over and over and over again. And I wanted to talk about this to get the word out there, because it just happens to too many people. I know, because I have to give them this news. I'll get the phone call at my office. Yeah, I have a problem. I just got denied a gun purchase, or I just got denied my license to carry, and I don't understand. I don't have any felonies on my record. I'm like, okay. Do you have any misdemeanors? Yes. What do you have? Well, I have a battery. Okay. And that was a misdemeanor. Yes. Misdemeanor battery. Yes. Who was the victim? And a lot of times I'll get as a response, well, what difference does that make? It was only a misdemeanor. Well, it makes a lot of difference. Who was the victim? Well, it was a girl I used to date, or it was a guy I was living with, or it was my mom, or it was my stepdaughter. And I'll say, well, unfortunately, that makes it a crime of domestic violence and you're prohibited from possessing a firearm. And the person will want to argue with me. And they'll say, no, you don't understand, Guy. It wasn't domestic battery. It was just battery. And I go, no, I do understand. Because it's still a crime of domestic violence, even though it's not the specific crime of domestic battery. There's one statute that says if you're convicted of domestic battery, you can't possess a gun. But there's a separate statute that too many even lawyers and judges and prosecutors don't know or don't understand. It says any crime. It includes domestic battery, but it's much broader than that. Any crime that involves either the use of physical force, and by definition, any battery involves the use of physical force. Or it could be criminal confinement. You know what that is? If my wife and I are having a fight, and this would never happen because my wife scares me, but if this were hypothetically to happen, my wife and I are having a fight, and she says, "That's it, I'm leaving." And I say no, and I restrain her from walking out the door. I put my hands on her shoulders and say, "You're not going anywhere." That's criminal confinement. I inhibited her movement. I confined her movement against her will. And she's my wife, and I used physical force by putting my hands on her. That is a crime of domestic violence, even though what I could get prosecuted for is criminal confinement. And so these people that call, I'll say, yeah, well, unfortunately, even though it was just battery, not domestic battery, it's still a crime of domestic violence. It has a much broader definition than just domestic battery. And get this, and I'm dealing with a couple of these right now. I have one where the person was charged with domestic battery. The prosecutor dropped domestic battery and even put into the plea agreement that, by the way, the normal terms of probation, because the person was going to be under probation for a year, even for an A misdemeanor, the normal term of probation, which is you can't possess a gun while you're on probation, doesn't apply because we don't want this guy to lose his gun rights. So the prosecutor built that right into the plea agreement. So this guy pleads guilty to an A misdemeanor, to battery. But guess what? The alleged victim was a, family or household member, which makes it a crime of domestic violence, which means he's prohibited from possessing a gun. And when I broke that to him, who was he mad at? He wasn't real happy with me for being the bearer of bad news. He was less happy with his previous attorney, who told him specifically, oh no, if you only plead guilty to battery, not domestic battery, you won't lose your gun rights. Yes, you do. And get this, if you are applying for your license to carry, or even if the state police are doing routine cross-checks, which they often do about new convictions against people who are in the license to carry database, if they see something like a criminal confinement or intimidation or battery conviction for someone, as part of a new application or otherwise, they will actually look at the underlying facts. And by the way, the FBI will do this as well. Part of the reason you can get delayed when you're buying a gun, because they can't tell just based on your criminal history that they can pull up quickly as part of the NICS check. They may see a battery on there and they'll delay you so they can actually go to the court file, request the court file to get the probable cause affidavit, get the police reports, and actually see who the victim was of that battery. And if it's a family or household member, as defined in federal law, has its own definition, by the way, of crime of domestic violence. It's not quite as broad as Indiana's is, but it's extremely broad. And it includes this dating relationship business. But they will look at the underlying facts. They don't care that you were only convicted of battery, not domestic battery. They'll look at the underlying facts to see whether it meets the definition under state or federal law of crime of domestic violence. And people are out there negotiating plea deals. I know, I see it. And I see it after the fact when people call me upset because they're being told they can't buy a gun or they can't get a handgun license. And I'll say, well, that's because you were convicted of a crime of domestic violence. Again, it's the same conversation over. No, guy, no, it wasn't domestic battery. I understand that. The definition of crime of domestic violence is much broader. And so I want to get the word out. I'm teaching a CLE on this in Indianapolis on June 12th. I'm trying to get the word out to attorneys. I want to make sure people understand this because people are getting caught unaware. And I'll guarantee you there are judges out there that don't understand this point as well. And it's right there in the statute. It's pretty clear. That's exactly what the law is. It's very clear that's exactly what the law is. But it's an educational process, so I wanted to mention it on the show, even though it doesn't apply necessarily to millions and millions of people across Indiana. It applies to enough that I get that damn phone call way too often. I'll tell you, we're going to take a break. We come back. I'm going to go back to the phone lines, and Wes has called in, and we'll get to anybody else who wants to call. 317-239-9393. That's 317-239-9393. Join the discussion. We'll be right back. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Another update is just minutes away.
Russia takes a little more of Ukraine. 4 border villages, 367 drones and missiles.
Hear the news.
The Indy 500 $20 million purse. It's overwhelming. It's amazing.
As events happen.
A shooting just a block north of Gambridge Fieldhouse. Man was shot. He's in bad shape.
We'll happen to be there.
Kayaker found a man's body floating in the Fall Creek in the water for quite some time.
93 WIBC Mobile News.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. Our most popular class is our Essentials of Indiana Gun Law class. We'd love to have you there on the one coming up July 12th. That's going to be at Indy Arms on the northeast side of Indy. It's $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. It's 4.5 to 5 hours, the most important legal information you need as an Indiana gun owner. We'd love to have you there. You can register right online. Just go to tactical-firearms.com and click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
Employee pricing. That's right. At Andy Moore Ford in Plainfield, you can get employee pricing across a full lineup of your favorite trucks and SUVs. Their entire American inventory has been marked with employee pricing, so you pay what they pay on F-150s, on Super Duties, Explorers, all of them with employee pricing. And if you need something a little smaller but still want to be able to haul the crew and cargo around, the Edge is the perfect choice for you. And you'll definitely enjoy the excellent fuel economy. Plus, it's loaded with safety features. Get more to your door with Andy Moore Ford. Simply purchase your vehicle online and they'll deliver it to you. And if you need to sell or trade your current vehicle, the time has never been better. Andy Moore Ford will pay top dollar for your used vehicle, even if you don't buy from them. Employee pricing on all your favorite Fords are at Andy Moore Ford in Plainfield, 2713 East Main Street in Plainfield, or online at Andy Moore Ford, MOHR. AndyMooreFord.com.
Lanny went to college and racked up huge debt.
A little bit over $100,000.
For a degree he couldn't use? Now what?
I had a friend that went to my computer career.
They even helped him get hired immediately after graduation.
One of the things I love about IT is that you can work from anywhere you want.
You could become an IT pro in just months, including cybersecurity and the basics of AI with zero experience at mycomputercareer.edu.
It worked for me, and I know it can work for you.
This is one student's experience. Individual results vary. Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. Now, there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated the best hearing aids of 2025 by Forbes Health, Audion Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, starting at just $98 a pair.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aid.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 1 million happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
With everything going on, it may be hard to imagine one more thing to worry about. But clothes dryers cause thousands of house fires every year, and dirty ductwork in your home is filling the air you breathe with pollutants and allergens. Should you worry? Not if you contact Safe Dryer and Air Duct Solutions, a locally owned, veteran-operated business offering fast, reliable duct and dryer vent cleaning services, making your home safer and your air healthier. WIBC listeners save 10% off any service. One less thing to worry about. Go to safedads.net.
Tony Katz here for Premier Arms in Brownsburg, Central Indiana's premier arms dealer. They have over 1,200 firearms in stock, the largest selection of used firearms in the area, from pre-Civil War to modern guns. Premier Arms has always put their customers ahead of their profits. They always have ammunition available when a customer buys a firearm. Everyone can find what they're looking for at Premier Arms in Brownsburg, 3754 South Green Street. Find them online at premierarms.com. Premierarms.com. Tell them Tony Katz sent you.
Training for a new job after 55 can be challenging, but through the Senior Community Service Employment Program, or CSEP, unemployed workers 55 and over can receive on-the-job training in preparation for a new role. You even get paid for your training time. To see if you qualify, call 765-830-WORK. That's 765-830-WORK. Then, armed with a new set of skills, get out there and start your second act.
This is James at Price Point Comfort Heating and Cooling. You can trust us with all your heating and cooling needs. We have over 150 years of combined experience.
PricePointComfort.com. Price Point Comfort is your trusted local independent American Standard heating and air dealer.
Through their service, veterans have our backs. Now we should have theirs. Learn more at GotYour6.org.
Now you've got a gun guy. Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. Did I say that right? On 93 WIBC. I was reading and talking at the same time, which normally I pull off okay, but I think I may have screwed that up just a bit. Let's go to the phone lines, and Wes has been holding for a while. Wes, thanks for your patience, man. Welcome to the Gun Guy Show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Sure. What you got?
So I am 40 years old, and ever since I was 18, I've been getting delays on firearm purchases.
Uh-huh.
No one has ever been able to tell me why. I do not have any violent anything. I have no felonies, nothing. I have my license to carry. So eventually one person was like, well, you have a common last name. So he said, maybe go to the FBI and get a PIN number.
Mm-hmm.
So I applied to the FBI. I got a U-PIN. Even still, after I've gotten my license to carry and my FBI extended background check with a U-PIN, I still get a delay every time I want to purchase a firearm. I'm just wondering if you have any idea why, or if there's anything I can do to not be delayed.
Well, I'll tell you what, Wes, when I saw what your question was, asking producer Jack about it, or just telling him what we wanted to talk about, where it says you get a hold on purchasing firearms, the one and only thing that came to my mind is applying for a U-PIN, which you've already done and already gotten it. And that really is supposed to fix that problem. And listen, I'm not exactly sure why. I was getting delayed a lot like 20 years ago. And it annoyed the heck out of me. So I got my U-PIN and I put it right there on the 4473 form. And I'm sure you're using yours as well there on the form. And I don't think I've been delayed since I've had my U-PIN, and that's been a damn long time. So I don't know of anything else that can head that off. Now, if you were listening earlier, and since you have your license to carry, I would make sure you have a license that was issued within the previous 5 years, because we may have a fix for you in that if the ATF website is correct. And again, as I said in the first hour, this is an if, because I still haven't seen any kind of a formal announcement on this. But if the ATF's website is correct and that gun owners can, they don't have to, by the way, that's an important point, going back to this point of contact issue where firearm shop owners can take your license to carry in lieu of a NICS check, then, hey, you find, you're a local gun shop owner that's willing to do that as long as your license was issued within the previous 5 years, assuming this information on ATF's website is accurate, then boom, you just fix that problem. You go in there, show your license, and walk out with your gun. But going back to that discussion, I want to make sure everybody else understands this as well, and it says this right on the same website. And you know what? I'll publish that link on my Twitter. Give me a follow while you're on there. I'm trying to build that following. I'm not that far from 10,000 followers. I would like to see 5 digits. That would make me happy. But I will post that link. But what you'll see right on there is it says that FFLs, that is federal firearms licensees or gun stores, they don't have to take your license. If they want to run a NICS check on you, then they can do it if they choose. So it's the gun shop's prerogative. And so I think that's an important point. But, assuming there are gun shops around, especially ones that know you, where you've bought guns before, show them your license, they can accept that now. If you have a lifetime and it's older than 5 years, then I would suggest applying for that 5-year, but wait until we get confirmation on whether what we're seeing from ATF is accurate or not. Let's go back to the phone lines, and I think it's Brian has called in. Brian, welcome to the Gun Guy Show.
Hey, Guy, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good. I'm just here at work. Hey, listen, this kind of off topic, but kind of something that I thought was kind of crazy. J.P. Morgan's Jamie Dimon. I read this. I'm reading this article on my Fox News app. He said that the U.S. should stockpile. He says bullets, but I call it ammo and tanks and drones and planes.
I saw this. I saw this,
Bitcoin.
Brian.
Yeah, it's kind of. I thought maybe he was kind of talking to us. I mean, I know I preach to the choir. We all are already stockpiling ammo. I don't know about him. He's probably disconnected from what we live in.
And Brian, I appreciate your call, and I did see that. I read it on a website somewhere, but no, I don't think he was talking to us as the private gun owners that we should be stockpiling. I mean, I'm not listening to J.P. Morgan on that issue. I'm doing plenty of stockpiling of my own, and I have for a long time. In terms of my firearms and an adequate supply of ammunition, I have a fairly expansive view of what's adequate on ammunition. But I don't think he was talking to us. I think he was talking to the United States, because this came out of Trump announcing that Trump was setting up a national reserve for Bitcoin. And he was saying that, hey, it's like an electronic Fort Knox, and we're going to stockpile this, and this will be sort of a rainy day asset, and that'll be great for the government to have that asset stockpiled away. And that's why I referred to the electronic Fort Knox. And what this gentleman was talking about from J.P. Morgan is he's saying, because he even made this reference, he said, if there was a war in Asia, in other words, if China were to invade Taiwan, he said, we've got missiles for like 7 days. And that's not okay. We need to be stockpiling missiles and tanks and those things that our warfighters need to go out and win wars and kill the enemy, because we have let those stockpiles diminish far beyond what we should have, especially under the Biden administration. So when he's saying stockpile bullets, he's talking about tanks and bullets and missiles and those things he wants the government to have stockpiled in case we need to go fight a war somewhere to make sure we can win any wars that we feel the need to go fight. So a little different issue, but hey, would I still agree with the basic premise that we all ought to have guns and ammo stockpiled sufficient to where if something truly untoward happens and, the proverbial fan gets hit with what, that we're all capable of defending ourselves and our families, and that goes for food and water as well, being able to survive some kind of catastrophe, whether it's man-made or natural. Yeah, 100%. And I'm not what you would call a prepper, but I like having the idea of having food and water and gasoline and a generator and weapons and ammunition, first aid supplies, a number of other things, so that my family can get through a time of emergency. Again, whether that's natural or otherwise. We're a little past bottom of the hour. Let's take a break. We had great calls so far. Join the discussion, 317-239-9393. Love taking calls from our listeners, 317-239-9393. We're taking a break. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Life moves fast.
We move fast.
Get moving fast.
It's not business as usual.
So does the news.
I could be a stupid person to say, oh, no, we don't want a free plane.
Decisions made today.
The United States and China announcing a 90-day pause.
Could impact you tomorrow.
Goldman Sachs adjusting its 2025 economic outlook.
The issues, some solutions.
What's next?
I'll let you know at the appropriate time.
Gotta stay tuned.
We're already tracking it.
Strong borders.
Stay in the know while you're on the go on 93 WIBC.
Home sales are good, just not great. So many homes have been properly marketed or just sitting on the market. Hiring the wrong sales agent will cost you time and money. Hire the expert who maximizes equity and sells fast. That's Mark Dietel. Maybe you want a fast, guaranteed home sale, but you don't want to give up hard-earned equity to do it. Mark Dietel is the only real estate expert trusted and recommended with the sale of your home. Mark Dietel guarantees your home sold at a mutually agreed upon price and deadline, or he will buy it. Just pick your move date. There are no long-term contracts, and you can cancel at any time. Luke and Emma in Franklin said, we found the perfect piece piece of land and began building our new dream home, but we needed to sell our old place at the right price to fund the dream. We hired the Mark Dietel team and got multiple offers in the first weekend, closed in 25 days, and they negotiated for us to stay while we completed our new place. Selling was stress-free and profitable with Mark Dietel. Call the local Indianapolis agent, trusted and recommended, the agent who guarantees your home sold or he'll buy it. Call Mark Dietel, 317-755-4232. Get all the details or go online to markdietel.com. That's Mark Dietel, D-I-E-T-E-L, markdietel.com.
What is 988? It's a way forward. It's a listening ear. It's whatever help you need when you need it. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline offers trained crisis specialists ready to talk to you 24/7. If you or someone you love is experiencing a mental health or substance use crisis in their life, call or text 988. Want more information? Visit 988indiana.org.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, let's talk ED because millions of men experience it. But not everyone can access or afford treatments like Viagra. Hims can help. Through Hims.com, you can access a full range of treatment options for ED through a 100% online process. To start your free online visit and save up to 95%, go to Hims.com/joy. HIMS.com/JOY.
This hour on 93 WIBC is powered by Price Point Comfort Heating and Cooling, your independent American Standard air dealer.
Fox News, I'm Roger Stern. The European Union says it regrets President Trump's plan to double tariffs on foreign steel, with the EU now threatening countermeasures. President Trump announced his tariff plan yesterday to steel workers in Pittsburgh.
We're going to bring it from 25% to 50%, the tariffs on steel into the United States of America, which will even further secure the steel industry.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth warned our Asian allies about the possibility of Chinese aggression.
China has demonstrated that it wants to fundamentally alter the region's status quo. We cannot look away, and we cannot ignore it.
Hegseth addressed a defense conference in Singapore. America is listening to Fox News.
Puccini's Pizza, Pasta, Puccini's. 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 Puccini's Pizza, Pasta, Puccini's.
It's the Bash Sale, the biggest automotive sale in history. Your local Bill Estes dealerships are coming in hot with deals on trucks you don't want to miss. We have a huge selection of trucks at one easy online stop. Brand new Chevy, Ford, GMC, Jeep, Ram, and Toyota trucks with a massive pre-owned selection too. Plus, our fair and direct upfront pricing means what you see is what you pay. Shift into savings during the Bash Sale, only at Bill Estes dealerships, and drive away in your dream truck today. Online at BillEstesTrucks.com.
Big Joe here for your trusted local independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer, B&W HVAC Plumbing and Electrical.
With a B&W Premier Club membership, you'll stay ahead of breakdowns and costly repairs. Our members get routine maintenance, priority scheduling, and exclusive discounts, saving you money and keeping your family comfortable all season long. Visit bplusw.com or call 317-214-0108 for more information.
B&W HVAC Plumbing and Electrical, your American Standard dealer since 1961.
It's JMV. The Memorial Day sale is on at Miss M's Home and Garden in Bargersville. 20% off contender trees and shrubs and 30% off pottery. State Road 135 south of Whiteland Road.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Find the path to recovery that works for you. Learn more at cdc.gov/stopoverdose.
He's a Second Amendment attorney. He's an NRA certified firearms instructor. He's the gun guy. Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. This is Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. We got some good news. This was before the race, but I wasn't able to have a show with race day weekend last weekend. Got some really good news in the area of forced reset triggers. And if you're not sure of what that technology is, this is really an area where a company called Rare Breed really pioneered these. And now there are really two sort of competing forms of the technology. But Rare Breed is a company name called Rare Breed Triggers. And they came out with their forced reset trigger. And what it does is it essentially uses the movement of the bolt carrier group to mechanically force a trigger to reset itself. So in other words, when you pull a trigger, and these are typically used in AR-style rifles, although I've seen them in SIG MPXs and other firearms that use an AR-type trigger or trigger assembly. But when you pull the trigger, you don't have to let up on the trigger for the trigger to reset. You can just maintain constant pressure. But through the movement of the bolt carrier group, mechanically, the trigger is forcibly reset. So the trigger then moves forward, and you watch somebody shooting one of these, you can see the trigger going back and forth. Why is that important? Because the legal definition of a machine gun was set out by Congress, and that is used in the NFA in its regulation of machine guns. It says a machine gun is a firearm where you get more than one shot or more than one bullet exiting the muzzle. And it talks about per manipulation of the trigger through function of the trigger. So if through a single function of the trigger. So if I have one pull and the trigger never moves and I just hold it to the rear and I continue to get multiple shots, that's a machine gun. If the trigger, even though it's being forcibly reset, meaning the trigger is forced forward against the pressure of my finger, and then the rearward constant pressure of my finger being held in that position pulls it again so that it shoots very quickly. And you watch somebody shooting one of these, except for the fact you see their finger going back and forth, and they're not doing that intentionally. That's the trigger forcing the reset. But you listen to them shoot, and if you're not looking at their trigger finger, you're just watching them shoot, it looks pretty damn close to full auto. There's some corollary or similar technology called a super safety. And one company, Hoffman Tactical, came out with these, and others have come out. And they're a little different. They actually, they replace the safety on a gun. They're not typically a whole trigger unit like the Rare Breed force reset trigger. There are different components that you can install with your existing trigger. But it uses a bar, and the bar actually rides on the safety cam, and therefore really using a similar technology in the sense that as the gun cycles, this bar forces a reset of the trigger, and it also results in very rapid fire. But the trigger is being forcibly reset, just like a force reset trigger. So you could say a super safety is a kind of force reset trigger. I think it would be fair to say. But you can tell guns that have them because the safety is no longer a lever type safety like you have on an AR-15. Typically, it's like a push button. It's a push through, like a lot of shotguns have there, right? Like a Remington 870 right in front of the trigger guard. You've got a push through safety. Well, that's what this is on an AR style rifle. You push it through. When you push it all the way through, the gun's on semi-auto. When you push it halfway through, to where you see about half of the button sticking out on one side and about half sticking out on the other side, then it's in super safety. What does that mean? It means you're going to get a forced reset trigger, and it shoots very, very quickly. Sometimes a gun needs a little tuning to get them to work. You may have to put a heavier buffer in it. You may need a stronger, heavier spring, recoil spring, buffer spring. So, you know, I've even seen people on the super safety say they need to be machined a little bit, depending on your rifle, just to get it to run the right way. So you may have to tinker with it a little bit. But once they operate, they're actually much simpler and less expensive, significantly less expensive than a force reset trigger. So why am I talking about these? And of course, the anti-gun people are screaming and yelling, going, "Oh my God, it's a machine gun! It's a machine gun!" Well, it's not a machine gun because you don't get more than one bullet per function of the trigger. The trigger has to reset. It has to move between shots. It does that very quickly. It does that mechanically. There's nothing the operator has to focus on, but you still get multiple functions of the trigger for multiple shots. And one function of the trigger, that is just being pulled and held rearward, doesn't result in multiple shots, so it's not a machine gun. That is absolutely fundamentally true. So what was going on is that there was litigation going on between Rare Breed, really, I think it's fair to call them the originators of the force reset trigger, and the federal government. Well, what we talked about here weeks ago was the Trump administration came out, President Trump came out, and he ordered Pam Bondi to review the government's position in all pending litigation, whether it's criminal or civil or otherwise, that affects people's Second Amendment rights in this country, and said, we want you to make sure you're not attacking people's Second Amendment rights, and everything you're doing is legally and constitutionally permissible. Well, I think that review directly led to a settlement of the litigation between Rare Breed and the federal government, and it resulted in the dismissal of 3 or 4 different lawsuits brought by there's some industry groups that had brought other ones, and there had actually been some positive rulings by the lower courts. But this is where the government signed a settlement agreement and basically said they're going to allow Rare Breed to continue selling its force reset triggers. And in doing so, by definition, had to concede that putting a force reset trigger in your gun doesn't make it a machine gun. And there is no logical, factual, technological argument that exists that I'm aware of, or that I could even envision, that would say if a force reset trigger is legal, then super safety, which operates slightly different technology but on exactly the same principle, which is forcing mechanically a reset of the trigger, why it would be illegal. So I think this frees them up. And I know a lot of people, and I may even be one of these people, who has put a super safety. I think they're more reliable, they're more economical, and I just like the functioning of them better than a typical force reset trigger. You have much fewer moving parts, less things to go wrong than in a force reset trigger. But this frees these up to be legal, and they're not regulated as machine guns. They operate as semi-automatics, and therefore are regulated as semi-automatics. And putting one in your gun doesn't make it a machine gun. Now, does that mean some rogue U.S. attorney somewhere in some federal district won't still try to prosecute someone? I can't really imagine that's the case, because it's the Justice Department that those U.S. attorneys work for that has come out with this settlement to say these things are illegal, and Rare Breed's allowed to sell them, and the people who bought them are allowed to have them in their guns and to use them. That's all good news. And exciting to see. Wanted to give people an update on that because I get that question a lot. Because again, a lot of people are interested in these. You're to some degree trading accuracy for rate of fire, which can be a lot of fun at the range. May not be suitable for all defensive situations. In the event of a zombie apocalypse, hey, sign me up. But they are a lot of fun at the range, although expensive. Since you're blowing through, you can go through a 30-round magazine in just a very few seconds, which can be a lot of fun, a little noisy. That's why I'm shooting mine out of a suppressed SBR. But anyway, that's the news on force reset triggers. Let's take a break. We'll come back for the last segment here on the Gun Guy Show. Any last callers, give us a call, 317-239-9393. This is Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
The pothole. Formed in colder months, tiny fissures are born, and in no time at all, they grow into big, gigantic
Tire killers.
That's why you need Matt Baird Traffic.
Watch out on Keystone Avenue.
He'll guide you around these hidden monsters.
Yeah, might as well call it a basement.
And on to safer ground.
You don't want to be in the far left lane.
Mornings and afternoons on 93 WIBC.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. As I always say, our most popular class is Essentials of Indiana Gun Law. We've got one of those coming up on July 12th at Indy Arms there on the northeast side of Indy. We'd love to see you there. It's 4.5 to 5 hours of the most important legal information you need as an Indiana gun owner. It's just $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. And we still have seats available, but the class always sells out, so don't wait too long. You can sign up right online at tactical-firearms.com. Just click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
You let him try violin because you love him. And if you love him that much, love him enough to make sure he's buckled up and in the back seat. Find out more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
It's the first day of the first grade, and she found a new best friend. It's a laid-back Sunday afternoon you wish would never end. The homemade taste of Bluebell and good friends gathered round. The good old days are being made right now.
Bluebell Groom's Cake Ice Cream is renewing its vows on the frozen aisle. Milk chocolate ice cream with chocolate cake pieces, chocolate-coated strawberry hearts, swirls of strawberry sauce, and chocolate icing. See you at the reception.
The good old days are being made right now. The good old days are being made right now.
Look for Bluebell ice cream at Meijer stores.
You may not have 1,000 horsepower, but you're always racing, whether it's to work, to pick something up, or drop someone off. So go the distance, knowing Hubler's got you covered for 100,000 miles. Shop any of Hubler's 13 locations or visit drivehubler.com and choose from over 2,000 vehicles. Chevys, Fords, Toyotas, GMCs, Buicks, Nissans, Acuras, Mazdas, Hondas, and many more. All makes, all models, certified vehicles, luxury vehicles, even the hard-to-find ones. Plus, every Hubler Q-certified vehicle is covered by a 128-point vehicle inspection and a free Carfax history report.
'Cause Hubler's got you covered.
No matter where you're racing to, go the distance, knowing Hubler's got you covered for 100,000 miles. Visit drivehubler.com or any of our 13 locations.
Cover me!
Warranty on select models less than 9 years old.
Hi, this is Denny Smith for LD Smith Plumbing. Joining me now is really the head of the whole company. Lance thinks he's the boss, but it's really not. It's Jennifer. You're the proud mother of LD Smith Plumbing, whether you want the job or not. How much fun is it to see those 5-star reviews?
It is the best. We love to review those with the guys. To see their smiling faces and know that we have done such a good job in the field is just priceless. My goal is always to make their day a little bit easier. For any plumbing issue, it's ldsmithplumbing.com.
The news everyone's talking about, you'll find it at WIBC.com. The latest from City Hall, the White House, or the State House. Updated all day. Don't miss what matters. Stay in the know while you're on the go at WIBC and WIBC.com. Second to none on the Second Amendment. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back here for our last segment on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. I had a gentleman call in during the break, didn't want to go on the air, but he asked, I think, what is a good question, so I want to answer it to the extent I can. And then he said, under this, what perhaps is a new situation with ATF where you can use your license to carry handgun in Indiana in lieu of a NICS background check when you're buying a gun. One of the requirements of that is that the license has to have been issued within the previous 5 years. So my lifetime license was issued many, many, many more than 5 years ago. So just before the show started, I applied for a 5-year license, which you can hold concurrently with your lifetime license. And I did that specifically because my lifetime license, like I said, was issued a long time ago. And the gentleman who called, I think he told producer Jack his name's Cowboy, Cowboy said, well, what if I have a lifetime license that was issued within the previous 5 years? Is that okay, or do I have to have a 5-year license? I'm going to guess on this, which is that I think that assuming this website, and I'll put the link on my Twitter or my X here as soon as the show's over, assuming it's accurate at all, it doesn't draw any distinctions between our lifetime license and our 5-year license. And in fact, for a lot of the other states that have multiple forms of licenses, it says some are accepted, some aren't. For instance, I'm looking at Louisiana, and it said their statewide permits for concealed handguns are accepted by ATF in lieu of a background check. The lifetime concealed handgun permit, yes. And then it says concealed handgun permits issued by sheriffs. Well, I don't know how that works in Louisiana, but it says next to that, no. So they talk about their different kinds of licenses they have in Louisiana. Some are okay, some aren't. For us, it doesn't list both the 5-year and the lifetime. It just says at the very top, talking about all these licenses, that a requirement is it has to have been issued within the previous 5 years. So, Cowboy, I'm going to guess that assuming this is at all accurate and they're allowing FFLs to accept your license in lieu of a background check, as long as your lifetime was issued within the previous 5 years, you're okay. But that's also without knowing, because the ATF didn't do us the favor of breaking out the two different kind of licenses we have here in Indiana, discussing them separately, like they do for so many other states that I'm sitting here looking at. So that's a provisional answer for now. Hopefully I get a response back, because I asked specifically, was this going to apply both to lifetime and for 5 years, as long as the lifetime was issued within the previous 5 years. So I'll get an answer hopefully from ATF sooner than later. Hopefully, certainly before next week's Gun Guy show. Let's go back to the phone line. We got Ted. Ted, we only got about a minute, man, but what you got?
Hey, I wish we had more time for this. Real quick, man, we're living under a country that pharmaceutical tyranny, government overreach. We're watching people steal out of our pockets. We're getting taxed on the money that we're taxed on. Then we're taxed on it again. We're getting kicked out of our homes because we can't afford to pay the property taxes. My question to you guys, when do we use the guns?
Well, yeah. The Indiana law says you can use a gun to prevent serious bodily injury to you or a third person. And also under the so-called Castle Doctrine in your home. And it doesn't talk about standing up to a tyrannical government. Of course, we all know that the Second Amendment was written specifically to allow an armed citizenry to stand up to a tyrannical government. But there's no separate provision of the law that says, oh, by the way, when the government reaches this level of tyranny, then it's time to bring the guns out. So you know what? I'm gonna fall back on there, Ted, and that's the meme you see out there. A lot of times it'll show Washington crossing the Delaware, and it says it's only rebellion if you lose, and we'll leave with that. And that's this week's show. We hope you enjoyed it. Hope you come back. This is Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Employee pricing. That's right. At Andy Moore Ford in Plainfield, you can get employee pricing across a full lineup of your favorite trucks and SUVs. Their entire American inventory has been marked with employee pricing, so you pay what they pay on F-150s, on Super Duties, Explorers, all of them with employee pricing. And if you need something a little smaller but still want to be able to haul the crew and cargo around, the Edge is the perfect choice for you. And you'll definitely enjoy the excellent fuel economy. Plus, it's loaded with safety features. Get more to your door with Andy Moore Ford. Simply purchase your vehicle online and they'll deliver it to you. And if you need to sell or trade your current vehicle, the time has never been better. Andy Moore Ford will pay top dollar for your used vehicle, even if you don't buy from them. Employee pricing on all your favorite Fords are